guys, this is AwesomeJohn22 coming at you today with another review, another Bumblebee review. As you can tell, I'm trying to kind of get through all of my Bumblebees, just kind of enjoying the whole theme thing once again. And here we have a version of Transformers animated Bumblebee. It is in fact the only version that I own. I wasn't a huge fan of animated when it first came out. I completely I mistook it for a much more childish show than it ended up being and didn't watch it for a while, and therefore didn't really pay much attention to the toy line either. So I did miss a lot of the earlier releases and had to catch up on them. And Bumblebee, as much as I liked the character, he just wasn't as big a priority to me as, say, Optimus Prime or Prowl or, you know, some of the other really great, hard-to-find characters. And I was able to find this figure at retail, and that satisfied me well enough. And it still does. It's still a very good figure. This is the Elite Guard Bumblebee, and you can see he looks good front and back. He really does a good job capturing the look of the character, which is what animated was really known for, aside from, you know, having very different animation, but animation that captured movement very, very well. Something that I didn't realize from the initial promos, and was one of the main reasons why I didn't watch the show at first. I will go ahead right now and say that it is now probably my favorite Transformers series. So, as you can see, a pretty radical shift in viewpoints. But yeah, it looks good. But we're not here to just look at the figure. We're here to actually analyze the figure, and to get started with that, we should probably get him transformed up through the magic of jump cuts. And here we have Elite Guard Bumblebee in his vehicle mode, and a little dustier than I'd like. It's been a while since I've handled this guy. You can see he has his rockets attached here to the sides of the car at the after area. They just peg in like so. Really simple. And you can see kind of that he got his design from this kind of Bumblebee as a hatchback thing that Classics did. You can see good size comparison with the Classics Bumblebee mold, and you can see they're about the same size and even have some relatively similar details, which is pretty nice. But obviously he doesn't have a Bumblebee color scheme in this mode either. The closest he gets is these yellow rims, as well as the gold along the lower part of the car, which I think this looks very nice, though. I want to point that out right off the bat. See the Autobot Elite Guard symbol from animated there, as I accidentally turned my camera. Great silver painted headlights, great blue windows and windshield, and we've got a little bit of Bumblebee yellow there. The gold, however, is the predominant color here, besides black, even getting a little bit of gold here on the booster rockets. And we do see he still has the little light here that he has in the show that acts as a police light, though it is not painted red as it would be on the regular release. And again, I only have this, and I'm only reviewing this because I did miss out on the original release of this figure, and just simply cannot justify spending the extra money to get my hands on it at this point in time. Though I really would actually like to get my hands on, I think it's called the Hydro Drive Bumblebee. I think that would be pretty nice somewhere down the line. You can see just great paint all around on this guy. The black looks good, the gold looks good, everything looks good. The molding is fantastic, managing to capture the look and feel of the character from the show without actually having the same color scheme, which is something that not all Transformers toy molds can brag of. And that's pretty much all to say about the vehicle mode, so let's go ahead and get him transformed up. You don't have to remove the booster rockets, but I prefer to, as it keeps them out of the way. You can already see it started transforming itself there a bit. These panels loosen pretty easily, so let's go ahead and loosen those and lift them up a bit. Next we're going to come here and we're just going to lower both doors down, and that frees up this whole area here. So bring this up a bit so you can see a little bit better. We're going to bring this around, and you can see there's his false windshield chest, which is pretty much the only false part about this figure. And bring these up and around, and then come to the back here and take these panels and just accordion them together and peg them into place. And now we can take the booster rockets, and we can plug them into his back, as we saw earlier in his robot mode at the start of the video. And moving up again, you can see this is revealed his head, which again is not the same colors as it was in the show, but still is kind of dead on the character with great light piping, as you can see. Absolutely fantastic, looks great and captures so much character. Coming down here to his arms, we now fold out his hands like so, which leaves only the lower part of the figure. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're just going to split everything. Then we're going to take these panels, and being careful because these can pop off their ball joints very easily, we're going to just pull them out a little bit and rotate them around. And as you can see, I just did pop it off the ball joint. Pop it back on, which is fairly easy, and then just rotate it around like so. Next we're going to come over here and just rotate his feet all the way around, well, his toes rather, all the way around into place on both sides. And then we're going to come up here and kind of lower this back down, rotate it all around into place like so, which probably would have been easier if I'd done a couple things in a slightly different order, but I think it still worked out pretty well. The transformation is not very complicated, and now just, you know, straighten everything up and get him standing. And here we have Transformers Animated Deluxe Class Elite Guard Bumblebee, as I completely butcher his name, in his robot mode. And once again, he looks great. He completely captures the feel of the character without actually having to have the same colors. Though he does a bit in this mode. You can see yellow all through his legs and arms, and some yellow on his chest that is clearly the Bumblebee yellow. Though I do have an issue with his chest. The two halves of his chest are not quite lined up, so everything except for the Elite Guard stamp here, which seems to have been put on last, is a little bit, you know, uneven. And I'll kind of lower, you can see what I mean. But he does have great gold paint again on the chest. You can see gold paint ends up in his shoulders, on the sides of his arms, and in his legs and feet. And it does such a good job of just ending up in exactly the right places to break up the black and complement the yellow and just give this guy a really fantastic and unique look. Even amongst other black repaints of Bumblebee, this guy looks absolutely great. I actually kind of wish I'd thought to go get my Transformers Age of Extinction black repainted Bumblebee to show you, though technically I suppose he's not really a black repaint. And now that I think about it, this guy is technically the only black repaint of a Bumblebee that I actually own. Every other Bumblebee I own is either black by design or is one of the yellow, you know, Bumblebees. The proper yellow ones. I don't know, as an alternative to the original release of this figure, I think it's perfectly viable. I think it's cool to have Bumblebee as an Elite Guard agent. That's just nifty. And it certainly looks perfectly fine, and it does everything the original one did. Though the main issue is, with Animated being as old as it is now, you can see his booster rockets on his back there, getting your hands even on this slightly newer version of the figure is going to be a pain and is going to cost you extra money. Not as much as the Hydro Dive Bumblebee would, but hey, it's still pretty expensive. He does have some abdominal rotation, though it's part of the transformation, and rotating it too far will begin to pop off this false windshield here, as you can kind of see there. He has limited up and down at the shoulders, but his arms do rotate at the shoulders a full 360, and he does have this extra joint here, as well as an elbow that bends pretty much exactly 90 degrees. His head is on a forward and back hinge, as well as a ball joint, giving it some pretty decent range of motion. And he does have full motion in the legs. And I guess you could even say that his toes have posability, but I don't technically count that. And he does have weapons. He has little stingers that pop out of his arms. And you would kind of fold his hand back and pop these out instead. And there is a mod that is floating around somewhere on the internet where if you manage to get your hands on 2 Bumblebees, you can take the stingers out of one and make each of these a full stinger, but I obviously never went for that. So I think they still look perfectly fine like this. And then you can put them together, as he would sometimes do on the show, and make kind of a super stinger to shoot at people with. And I think it works perfectly fine. It's perfectly reasonable. And is a good facsimile of his weapon. Which, to be fair, that's one of the things Animated was really good for as a toy line. Aside from just being a good likeness of the character overall, they were good at effectively replicating their weapons for the most part. I would say Ratchet is probably the one exception to that, and the weapons on Voyager Optimus clearly don't fit him, though the weapons from one of his Deluxe class versions make up for that if you manage to get your hands on both. But I am totally off topic now, because we are still talking about this guy, and whether or not I like this guy, and whether or not I recommend this guy, and I certainly do. If you manage to find him at a flea market or a garage sale or online for a reasonable price, definitely pick him up. Though, honestly, you might want to pick up the regular yellow version before that if you manage to find it instead. Or even the Hydro Dive version if you have the little bit of extra money to spend on a toy that's not only relatively old now, but also from overseas, as it is a little more accurate in terms of its transformation and a little bit more accurate in terms of its scale with the other characters. This guy is actually quite big. You can see here next to Transformers Age of Extinction Concept Chimera Bumblebee, he is taller, and Concept Chimera Bumblebee, if you remember, was a bit taller than our friend from Classics over here. So this Bumblebee is actually, he's actually quite large, where in the series he was quite small. And that might put some people off of this figure, but don't let it put you off, because I promise the figure is definitely worth buying, especially if you can find the original version of the mold, as I said before. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all there is to say about this figure, so that's pretty much all there is for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you feel so inclined. In the description down below, you will find a link to all the stuff I'm working on right now, including a link to my collection video. Check out that video, and if you see anything in it that you'd like me to review, let me know and I'll see what I can do. This has been AwesomeJohn22, and I will talk to you guys later, continuing with more Bumblebees.